Hello, good evening, and welcome back. During the election 2019, Tories stand by a Gower candidate over Facebook post. That's Gower in Wales. Always a good time to try for an accent. This from the BBC, again, of course, my most reliable news source. So, the Conservative general election candidate, Francesca O'Brien, has apologised for a Facebook post in which he said people on a TV show needed putting down. Difficult to find the further context of this, as the BBC doesn't provide it. Nonetheless, I'm all for spicy comments, but you can understand how this could be possibly closer to a death threat. However, this threat of violence or hurting somebody isn't actually an angle that they choose to take. Instead, they wish to just say, well, this is something that is completely unacceptable, and therefore she should step down and shouldn't even be allowed to stand. However, thankfully, there are some, like her Labour opposition, who's taking a more, maybe a more righteous path, and I don't mean in a negative connotation of a self-righteous path, but instead he's saying, well, hey, now everybody knows what you've done, and they have a chance to vote, and I trust the people will make the right decision, and you'll see that you'll fail in the upcoming vote, and I'll win. Which I think, that's brilliant. Surely you actually let the people decide what is acceptable and what isn't. Good job. He does decide to go a bit more pandering and virtue signalling at the end, but nonetheless, I think it's all good-natured enough, or at least the result is good-natured enough, even if his intent isn't. If his intent is to be smarmy, I really don't care. So let's see what actually happened. So, Francesca O'Brien, who was running for the Gower Street in December's election, made the comments about Channel 4's Benefit Street in January 2014. She said her comments were made off the cuff, but admitted her use of language was unacceptable. Labour and Lib Dems called for the candidate to be dropped. But Welsh Conservative Chairman Byron Davies has stood by Miss O'Brien, who is still set to run in the general election on 12th of December. She was a former commissioned officer with RAF Air Cadets, and she was selected to be the Conservative Party candidate for Gower in October after an open primary in which residents were able to participate as opposed to just party members. So this isn't a thing of a really long political career. And it says, having lost Gower to Labour in the 2017 election, the seat is a top Tory target in Wales because of how long it's been a Labour seat of, I think, about 100 years that they go on to say that it was kind of a Labour stronghold until 2015 when it flipped to the Conservatives. So, her comments for Benefits Street, January 2014 on Facebook, before politics, this is what she decided to say, and yes, people then had to go back 5.5 years in order to dig this up. It isn't something that she seems to have decided to stick by or continue with. In fact, she didn't care about it so much that she didn't delete it because she forgot to happen, as far as I can tell. I'm sure there are things everybody's posted a while back, especially when they're new to social media, and you've forgotten that you've posted it. They said I don't use it at all because I don't really see the point. But nonetheless, so they say, in the post following the broadcast of the first episode of Benefit Street 5 years ago, Ms. O'Brien said, "Benefit Street, anyone else watching this? Wow, these people are unreal." Responding to another user's comment, content unknown, she said, "My blood is boiling. These people need putting down." Which I find to be a very, very spicy comment, a spicy take. Yes, a hot take. But yes, this is, of course, a policy enacted by the National Socialists in the 1940s in Germany. So it isn't good for a Conservative to be enacting such a socialist idea. I don't think that's why Labour don't like it, though. But yes, the idea in Germany was, of course, that anyone who was unable to work, or an invalid, somebody who was disabled, handicapped, whatever term you wish to use, they were seen as subhuman, and it was therefore better, because they couldn't have a quality of life, it was better for them, and because they couldn't contribute, it was better for the rest of society for them to be exterminated, or put down, if you will. That was the idea at the time. And if you accept the premise, then it makes logical sense, but the thing is that the premise of that, of course, isn't true. That you're saying they can't have any quality of life, and they're not helping anybody else. It's like, well, just on a pure production level, if it was a machine who couldn't feel emotion, then sure, but seeing as people can feel emotion, that isn't true at all. I know plenty of people who have family members or friends who need constant cares and being looked after, looked over 24 hours a day, but they still bring their family an immense amount of joy just for existing, I suppose, and that they're that cute and vulnerable, and therefore it increases the worth of the life of the person who's taking care of them. That's just how this goes. In which case you don't need to intervene, of course. This is still slightly different, given that it's you're forced to donate to someone you don't want to, but that is what taxes have become. That it is the majority, most likely, who will vote for a particular thing or demand a particular outcome, and then the minority is subject to mob rule, and they have to concede to paying for things that they don't wish to. For example, you might say, particularly in America, well, the death penalty, that's murder. War, that's murder. And or abortion, that's murder. And yet, you do have to fund every single one of those in America in one part or another. So you are funding murder, which goes against your own morality, of course. And similarly in the UK, but without the death penalty, of course. So if somebody were to say, yes, maybe more so like Jacob Rees-Mogg, who's more devout Catholic, to say, well, abortion, yes, that is murder. You are killing a life. Then still has to pay for it. Nonetheless, there you go. The Conservatives won Gower, which Labour held for more than 100 years in 2015, but lost it in the 2017 snap election. So let's see what her Labour counterpart said after the apology, because I think it's worth giving praise where it should be, as I mentioned with the Lib Dems before, that not being in the ITV debate, that they could have done better. They said, hey, we got more votes in the Brexit election than Labour or the Tories, yeah, but the Brexit Party got more, so they should have a deciding that they should have a platform as well on the ITV debate. It's like, no, oh right, because again, you don't care for the principle, you just care what gives you more power, which is why you should never have it. So, Welsh Labour leader Mark Drakeford said he could not imagine decent people in the constituency backing a candidate with views of that sort. I think she is condemned out of her own mouth more eloquently than anything I could say, Mr. Drakeford told his monthly press conference. Good man, well done, fair enough. You're not saying anything bad about her, just saying that's what she said. Everybody knows that it's bad what she said, and, people are good. Maybe they're forgiving as well, but nonetheless. Ian Levery, Labour Party chairman, however, said removing a candidate who used such vile language about people on benefits should be a no-brainer. The cuts to benefits and universal credit programme that Theresa Coffey and her party are responsible for have forced people into poverty. It hasn't forced people into poverty, not at all. Not at all. You're not born with anything, so it's up to you to get it. I think John Cleese said, I'm not sure if he came up with it or parroted it, but that a man should feel ashamed if he leaves the world having taken more than he's given. And it's a similar thing here, to say that you're not born with anything, but if you earn it, you deserve to keep it, which is, again, more of a conservative thing as well. Moving on, that is basically it. Although the arguably virtue signalling thing, but I don't think it is where it says Mr. Davis invited Mr. Breen to join him on a soup run to see how real people have been affected by Tory cuts to public housing. And I think that would also be good, because you can have instances, of course, where people are down on their luck, they are between jobs, they have an injury, whatever it might be, and therefore can't quite get by, and are just using benefits for a month or two in order to then get back working again. They do want to work, but they can't for whatever reason, and therefore when they do get back working, they can pay back a lot more than they've taken, in which case there is that little net in between jobs that helps people get by. In which case, yes, that is understandable. Again, whether or not that should exist, because you do have communities and families, and therefore the people who are around you, you should be able to befriend enough people, if it is just bad luck, then they will understand and say, hey, we understand that you've had a terrible accident, whatever it is, and therefore we've passed the hat around and we've raised money for you to be able to get by in the intervening time, because we do care about you, and you're clearly a good person, and therefore we wish to be able to help you out in your time of need. But of course, communism, ironically, destroys communities. So, That's it for now. Do let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you think that things like this should be dredged up from people's past, whatever side of the political spectrum they're on. If it should only apply to one side, personally I don't, but do let me know. And of course, how you think this will pan out. If you think, well, actually, yeah, the people will vote for her because they would rather people were useful members of society instead, and were encouraged to get a job and work instead of laid about. And if the employment benefits isn't encouraging the right behaviour, then of course it should be looked at again. So I don't know, always intrigued to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy the rest of your week.